Welcome back to the channel, everyone, and today we have one of the biggest and most shocking updates to ever come out of Dallas in recent years. The Cowboys have finally made the decision that fans and insiders debated for months, and that is the blockbuster trade involving none other than Micah Parsons. The All-Pro linebacker, one of the most dynamic and feared defenders in the entire NFL, is no longer wearing the star on his helmet. The Cowboys sent him to the Green Bay Packers in a stunning move that has left the entire football world buzzing. But as always in the NFL, the story doesn't stop with the headline. The moment the trade news dropped, the floodgates of speculation opened up about what this means for the Cowboys roster, how they plan to replace Parsons, and what players could be stepping into new roles. Names like Mazi Smith, Kenny Clark, and a handful of other defensive standouts are being thrown into the mix, and today we're breaking it all down in detail for you. Now, when you talk about Micah Parsons, you're not just talking about a linebacker. You're talking about the heartbeat of the Dallas defense, the chess piece that defensive coordinator Dan Quinn built his entire scheme around. Parsons could line up on the edge, drop into coverage, or blow up a run play in the backfield. Losing him isn't just losing a player, it's losing an identity. So the first big question becomes, how on earth do the Cowboys plan to replace a guy who has been the face of the defense since he was drafted? This is where things get interesting, because the trade package with Green Bay included not just draft capital but also some pieces that could fit into Dallas' defensive line rotation immediately. And at the center of the conversation is Packers defensive tackle Kenny Clark, a former Pro Bowler and one of the most consistent interior defenders in the league. Clark is the kind of player who can eat up blocks, collapse pockets, and allow edge rushers to feast. While he may not have the same highlight reel plays as Parsons, his impact is felt every down in the trenches. If the Cowboys can pair him with young defensive linemen like Mazi Smith, the former first-round pick who has been steadily developing, suddenly you have the makings of a defensive front that looks very different, but could still be highly effective. Mazi Smith in particular now has the spotlight on him like never before. Drafted out of Michigan for his size, strength, and raw potential, Mazi has been groomed to be a run-stopping anchor. The hope is that with more playing time and with a mentor like Kenny Clark possibly stepping in, he can take that leap from rotational guy to true difference maker. But let's be real, Cowboys Nation. Replacing Micah Parsons is not just about plugging one guy into his spot. It's about rethinking the entire structure of the defense. Dan Quinn will need to adjust schemes, blitz packages, and coverage responsibilities. Without Parsons' freakish versatility, the Cowboys may need to lean on a more traditional approach, relying heavily on their defensive line to generate pressure while letting linebackers and safeties play more defined roles. This is where the speculation around potential Parsons replacements really heats up. Names from inside the building, like Damone Clark and DeMarvion Overshown, have been floated as linebackers who could step into bigger roles. Clark showed flashes of potential with his speed and range, while Overshown, coming off injury, was drafted specifically because of his ability to fly around the field. But the Cowboys might not stop with internal solutions. Rumors are swirling that Dallas could still dip into free agency or the trade market to bring in another linebacker or edge rusher to help fill the void. Veterans like Justin Houston or even a reunion with someone like Jalen Smith have been tossed around, though those are more speculative at this point. The real focus seems to be on whether Dallas believes they can build a dominant defensive line that controls games without needing one superstar to do it all. That's why Kenny Clark and Mazi Smith are suddenly two of the most talked about names in Cowboys circles. And let's not forget the ripple effect this has on other stars on the roster. Guys like DeMarcus Lawrence, who has been a steady veteran presence, now carry even more responsibility to step up as leaders on this defense. Trayvon Diggs and Darren Bland, holding down the secondary, will be under pressure to lock down receivers knowing the pass rush might not be as explosive as it was with Parsons wrecking plays every other snap. In other words, this trade changes the balance of the entire Cowboys defense, and we're going to see very quickly how this coaching staff adapts. What's also fascinating is the long-term strategy behind this move. By trading Parsons, Dallas not only got a major return in picks and players but also avoided what would have been one of the biggest contracts in NFL history for a defensive player. Parsons was headed toward a deal that could have rivaled or even surpassed what Nick Bosa got from the 49ers. Jerry Jones and the front office made the decision that instead of tying up so much cap space in one player, they could spread those resources across multiple positions. That means more flexibility to extend younger guys, bring in free agents, and build a deeper roster. It's a risky gamble, no doubt, because losing a superstar is never easy, but it's one that could pay off if Dallas hits on the draft picks they acquired and if guys like Mazi Smith develop the way the team hopes. Now, the conversation about Parsons' replacements naturally leads us to the upcoming draft and potential trade targets. Fans are already speculating about whether Dallas could use some of that draft capital to move up for a top defensive prospect. There are edge rushers and linebackers coming out who could fit Quinn's scheme, and adding one of them alongside a veteran like Kenny Clark could ease the transition. But the Cowboys may also decide to invest in offensive help with those picks, given the ongoing pressure on Dak Prescott and the offense to deliver. This is why the Parsons trade is such a massive story. It doesn't just affect the defense, it reshapes the entire team building strategy moving forward. And don't underestimate the emotional impact this has on the locker room and the fanbase. Parsons was a fan favorite, a guy who brought swagger and energy every time he stepped on the field. Losing him is going to sting, and it will take time for Cowboys Nation to fully accept it. But football is a business, and in the business of building a championship contender, sometimes bold moves have to be made. Jerry Jones has never been afraid of bold moves, and this is one of the boldest of his tenure. Whether it proves to be brilliant or disastrous, we'll only know in the coming seasons. As of right now, though, the focus shifts to guys like Mazi Smith and Kenny Clark, who have the opportunity of a lifetime to prove they can be anchors of this defense. The next few weeks of practice and preseason games will give us our first real look at how the Cowboys plan to deploy them, and every snap will be scrutinized. Will Mazi finally turn his immense physical gifts into consistent production? Will Kenny Clark become the veteran leader who stabilizes the trenches? And will someone unexpected emerge as the new face of the defense in Parsons' absence? One thing is certain: this Cowboys team is not going to look the same. The identity of the defense is changing, the chemistry of the locker room is shifting, and the strategy of the front office has been laid bare. Fans are right to be nervous, but they also have reasons to be excited. The Cowboys still have plenty of talent, plenty of young players with upside, and now more flexibility to keep building. The question is whether all of that can come together quickly enough to keep this team in the hunt for a Super Bowl. So as we continue to track these Cowboys rumors and reports, keep an eye on Mazi Smith's development, on Kenny Clark's role, and on any whispers of outside additions who could help fill the Parsons-sized hole in this defense. The season ahead is going to test not just the players, but the coaches and the front office as well. Cowboys Nation is entering a new era, and like it or not, it's one without Micah Parsons. That's all for today's deep dive into the aftermath of this blockbuster trade and the rumors swirling around Mazi Smith, Kenny Clark, and potential Parsons replacements. If you're a Cowboys fan or just an NFL fan who loves following big storylines, this is one you won't want to take your eyes off of. Make sure you stay locked in, because the twists and turns are only just beginning. Thanks for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the breaking updates and in-depth analysis we've got coming your way.